Hello. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to properly refer to the size of squares and bevels. So let's start with our normal tri-square, most common that we find. And when you're dealing with tri-squares, the correct way to refer to the length is always by this inside lower measurement, from the end of the blade to the inside of the square. So this particular one, if we measure that, this is a 9-inch square. This one is a 10-inch square. And what commonly a lot of people do incorrectly is measure the top, and they'd advertise or call this a 10.5-inch square, which is not. 10.5 is never a size that was made by any manufacturer, but 9 is. The other common mistake I see people make, especially when there are graduations on the blade, is that they come over and they read the last number before they get to the handle, which is 9, and they call this a 9-inch square, which is also incorrect because you actually have a full 10 inches of measurement length. So do not read the last number, do not measure across the top, take the inside measurement, and that is the proper way to reference the size of a tri-square. Now, miter squares are combination tri and miter squares, where we get this 45-degree angle here, are measured differently. They are measured off the top. And we can see here, if you were to measure the bottom, you'd likely come out near 3 inches, but this is not a 3-inch square. We measure off the top, and we can see that this is a 4.5-inch square, which is a common size for these. Same thing here. If we measure across the top, we'll see that we are at 12 inches. This is a 12-inch, the largest size that was commonly made. We don't measure off the bottom, which would tell us 10. Tri-miter squares were always advertised by the manufacturers in their catalogs based off the top length. Now, true miter squares, such as these, where we can only do a 45-degree angle, this also trips people up because they don't know, am I measuring from point to point? I'm measuring off the top, and the correct is off the top. And we can see here that this is a 12-inch and that this is an 8-inch. You don't measure from corner to corner. You'll usually end up with a half-inch increment, which manufacturers did not generally do. So measure off the top for those. Now, for bevels, and here I'll put them sideways so that we can see them all. I see all sorts of different types of measurements. People will list them based off the handle, like this. People will pull it out and then measure the entire length. Sometimes people will even pull it out, make it the furthest, longest that it can possibly be, and then try to measure off of that. All of those are incorrect. The only way to measure the size of a tri-square is off of the blade length itself, from the point of the tip all the way to the back here. And we'll see that this is 14 inches, which is one of the common sizes. So now that we've talked about how to correctly refer to the size of the squares, I just want to talk lastly about the common sizes that you will encounter. Here are the 5 common sizes of bevels. Almost every manufacturer follow these. 99% of bevels that you'll find will be one of these 5 sizes: 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. There are some modern manufacturers that make some smaller bevels. You might find a one-off here or there. Distin did make some even larger, I believe a 16 and an 18-inch bevel, but 99% of bevels are going to be one of these 5 sizes. Now, when it comes to tri-squares, here we have what is generally found the smallest and the largest that manufacturers made. This is a 3-inch, and this going up to 18-inch. And most manufacturers had an array of sizes between here. Generally either 3, 4, 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 7.5, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, or 18 inch. I know of no manufacturers that made a 11 inch square or a 13 inch or a 17 inch. I don't know of any squares that exist of that size. But so 3 and 18, there were manufacturers that made 24 inch squares. Those are exceedingly uncommon. So all squares you're going to find are going to be between 3 and 18 unless it's somebody's homemade square. Although you might find, especially the older the square, especially if they don't have graduations on the blade, manufacturers weren't always trying to get it spot on. You may find a 16 inch square that's actually 15 and 7/8, or a 15 inch square that's 15 and 3/8. They can be off on the size a little bit, but there's your bounds for the tri-squares. For tri-miter squares, this represents usually the smallest size, and this represents the largest. A 4.5 and a 12. Most manufacturers stuck to between those two sizes. And then for miter squares, usually 8, 10, and 12 inch. This is an 8 inch, this is a 12 inch. 8, 10, and 12 are pretty common sizes. It's unusual to find anything outside of those bounds. And I will also just say, with tri-squares, above 12 inches is common in wooden handled squares, but not so much in metal. Metal handled squares, tri-squares, usually top out at about 12 inches, unless it's a machinist square. Those can get much larger. So hopefully this has been a good overview. How do you refer to the proper size when talking about or advertising a square or bevel, and what are the common sizes that you are likely to come across? Thanks for watching.